What is your biggest tip for leadership?
Not be a leader.
Wow.
Lead from the bottom up.
All problems exist in the absence of a good conversation.
Connection before content.
Being authentic to who you are.
Don't aim for perfection.
Welcome to The Business Game,
A podcast that moves the needle.
Okay, before we jump back in, a quick shout out to SmoothX. Imagine all your business platforms talking to each other seamlessly. Accounting, CRMs, project management software. That's exactly what SmoothX does. Their integrations save you time, reduce errors, and keep your data accurate across the board.
The best part? Getting started is fast and easy. Their onboarding takes less than 30 minutes. So you can be fully operational in no time. And if you want to support the show while exploring SmoothX for your business, check out the link in the description.
SmoothX makes life simpler, smarter, and way more efficient. All right, back to the episode. So, Stacey, what is your biggest tip for leadership?
There's something that we say a lot of times in my mastermind is all problems exist in the absence of a good conversation. And I had learned that in a mastermind group years ago. And I would say a lot of the problems that you have in your business are because there's hard conversations that need to happen that you're avoiding, whether it's with team members or vendors or clients or even with your family and spouse. So I find when you just like write down like, okay, what is it that's the challenge? What is it that is the outcome that I want? And then just go have the conversation. You feel so much better. Even if the conversation is a mess and it doesn't go the way you want, you'll still feel better than staying up at night thinking that you need to have the conversation.
I love that. Yeah.
Why is writing it down important?
Well, because I think we tend to go around in our heads over and over and over again. And we're just like, oh, that guy did this and they did that. So I find like doing a brain dump is really good to just like say like, okay, this is the problem. This is the positive. This is the negative. Like it just helps you see it more clearly and get out of your emotions a bit.
Communication.
Yeah.
It's a lost art.
Yeah, especially when people have partners in business, like that's even like doubly important is to have these conversations.
What is your biggest tip for leadership?
Lead from the bottom up. I think so often people kind of get this misconstrued or get their ego in the way of true leadership. Leadership isn't in the form of this hierarchical thing. People sort of think about it like a pyramid where actually I'm at the bottom and everybody else is at the top because you're the one at the end of the day that's feeding me and contributing to my success. So I just think that always kind of reshifting your mindset or what your perception of leadership to be and kind of just like completely flip it on its head.
Oh, I love that.
What's the biggest leadership mistake you've made, Annabel?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I think the biggest leadership mistake I've made is probably letting problems go past a little bit too long. I think that every so often I like to give people the benefit of the doubt and think that perhaps, you know, they were just not having a good week or they weren't focused or they were tired or there were things going on in their personal life. When all that's really done was at one point manifest into a really big issue where it could have just been hit on the head if I had just intercepted that in the moment. And I think what that does is then just creates that dialogue and that relationship with an individual or those individuals to make sure that, you know, you're constantly checking in on them. I think that that's probably something that I didn't do for a long time, was just think that everybody was kind of self-sustainable, and I'm not a micromanager, so I'm sort of just there being like, everybody is fine, cool, yeah. And I think that what I probably needed to do was just not be everybody's friend and actually be somebody's boss. And I think that that has been a really, really hard leadership skill that I've needed to learn the hard way. And that's sort of the reason why I realized I did that, was by letting issues manifest into bigger issues when I should have just intercepted them really quickly and early on.
Yes. Wow. Yeah. When there's a niggle, deal with it then rather than letting it fester, 100%. Right? Yeah. Yeah.
And but it doesn't feel, it's not me to like nitpick, you know, like I just, and I didn't want it to feel that way. But like in reality, I'm running a business, and there are just going to be points of contention that you do just need to pick people up on.
Yes, and that's the role of the leader, right?
Yeah, and it sucks.
It is.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Testing. 1, 2.
Two.
Hello.
Are we on?
Are we on? Hello?
Hey, folks. Let's take a quick pause to talk about our friends at HubSpot. If you've ever felt like running marketing, sales, and customer service all at once is, a little chaotic, HubSpot is here to change that.
It's an all-in-one CRM platform that actually works the way you think. From generating leads to automating follow-ups to helping your team stay aligned. Personally, I love how the automation tools handle the busy work so you can focus on the bigger strategy.
And here's the best part. You can start your HubSpot journey for free using the link in the description. And while you're at it, you're helping to support this podcast.
HubSpot isn't just a tool. It's like having a full team in one platform, helping you grow your business faster and smarter.
Alrighty, it's back to today's episode.
What is your biggest tip for leadership?
My biggest tip for leadership is connection before content. I find this particularly true for businesses that are distributed or have hybrid work. There's a huge temptation to just get to it, right? To get into whatever the topic is, to get to the slide deck, to get to the memo, right? To get to the problem solving. But people crave connection, and it's connection to each other. It's connection to the purpose. If you can be really intentional about putting connection before content, I think you'll be a much more effective team.
Can you give us an example of that, Ryan? How does that work?
Yeah. So, it can be something as trivial as like an icebreaker type question, right? I'll give you one example that I recently did with a group, and it was a little bit more in depth, but it was to get to know each other better before a meeting, right? That we were doing, or spending the day together. Okay. So I'll give you a few examples. First, icebreaker question, like I said, we always start our meetings with wins, right? So what's something that's happened personally, professionally for you that's a win that you want to share? So you can keep it kind of high level, but starting with connecting with other people. And in our group chat, we always we'll share photos as well. So, if we were traveling somewhere beautiful or hanging out somewhere and want to share. But I'll give you one other example, right? We did this exercise, it was about a half hour before a meeting that we did. And we had somebody who, a third party, right, take 3 songs that sort of defined our each phase of our lives, right? And it could be any song, but you sent those 3 songs to somebody who built a playlist, and we mixed all the songs together, and we would play 30 to 60 seconds of each of these songs, and we all had to guess whose song it was, right? And then they would share a little bit about what was happening in their life at that time, why it's one of the 3 songs they picked that defines their lives. And my goodness, the things you learn about the depth of relationship you build in a half hour's time is unbelievable. You come out of that, A, the meeting's amazing, right? Everybody feels closer and more connected, but B, you come out of that feeling like you've got this deeper relationship with everybody. It's really cool. So stuff like that.
All right, Greg, so what is your biggest tip for leadership?
Don't aim for perfection. It's not about perfection. But as a leader, you really want to focus on your people. Great people build great businesses. So take your time, hire the right people. You're not going to get it right all the time. You're going to make mistakes along the way. But if you can do those 2 things, you're gonna have a business that's going to give you the time freedom that you deserve.
Curtis, what is your biggest tip for leadership?
I think the biggest tip for leadership is we talked about it earlier, being authentic to who you are, and also acknowledging some of your blind spots and some of your things that you're not as good at, right? The acknowledgement within itself kind of allows the energy then to kind of flow, and wherever you're lacking, it starts to kind of gives you the answers to actually do the next step. So I think one of the biggest challenges that a lot of CEOs have is that they're not authentic to who they are, and they want to make people think that everything is okay.
Curtis, can I ask you, what are some of the tells for that I'm not being authentic? How will that show up in my life?
Usually there's a blind spot or something is showing up is when you react to a situation out of the norm. I'm going to give you an example of what I'm talking about, Steve, is that someone cuts you off in your car and your reaction is you chase them down, cuss them out, and pull your gun and says, what the heck are you doing? Did you not see me? Well, normal reaction is that maybe they were busy or maybe something happened and, let them go. But I overreacted to a situation. So my employee comes to me with a simple challenge and I overreact. That means that there's something that may be blocking me from being authentic to who I am. And it makes me feel like they're questioning me or I'm not good enough. Who they think they are. I'm the boss. Well, so that is usually a response that a person gives that's kind of not in the norm. It's not a normal response.
What's your biggest tip for leadership?
So the biggest tip for leadership, I would say, is not be a leader. What do I mean by that? When you actually are leading, you think that you are much ahead of the pack. But in practice, what happens is there are some people who know more in some areas, less in some others. And same with you. So you are never fully ahead of the pack. You are among them. You have got the privilege to show them the pathway which everybody should take, because that is the part which you are better at as compared to others. But there might be so many other things where others are better off. So that's why I say don't be a leader. I would rather have a servant leader concept that is very well known, and in which case, your ego is well set and you are grounded rather than you flying off.
I like that.
Yeah. So I've got another question about leadership. What from the military or working with the military, even your dad, what parts of that have you brought into the business world?
Yeah, so you wouldn't believe, but in a war, in the situation of war, which the defense force personnel are taught very well, lot of the techniques are actually imbibed into the business world. Everything which you do, because you don't have to go and kill everybody in business. But what you still have is you have the stage set in terms of who are your friends, who are your enemies, what you can actually leverage from others, and where you need to compete and those kind of things. So that is what is actually taught from the war. So most of the thing that you do in wars is brought into the business world. And that's a very common thing among the, senior executives and things like that. Everybody tries to learn. Because if you remember, of the human civilization, the first kind of adversarial stuff we did was wars. Even when the civilizations used to be very small and there were pockets and there were village heads and things like that, then we had that war. And that's how we would prepare for, if there is a war, then what happens? If there is an uncertainty, then how do we handle it? If there is a paucity of some resource, then how do we handle it? So all of that is brought from the war into the business. So a large portion of the war learnings are brought into the business world.
Wow. There is that old military term as well, that no plan survives first contact with the enemy. And I guess that's a lot about business as well, right?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Thanks for tuning into The Business Game.
If you like what you heard, make sure to subscribe on YouTube and follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn to stay connected.
A big thank you to our major sponsor, SmoothX, for powering today's episode.
And join us again on the next episode of The Business Game,
a podcast that moves the needle.